Today we're going to look at the collapse of the UK oil and gas industry. Provocative title. Let's see how we justify that. So today, the 19th of October 2023, the North Sea Transition Authority published this report. It's the Reserves and Resource Report at the end of 2022. We're going to have a look at it. There's the link to the document. It's all about looking at the PMRS reserve scheme. Now this is something pretty universal put out by the SPE and break out reserves into reserves, contingent resources and prospective resources. These are the three categories here. Within there are different sets. There's proved, probable and possible reserves. Then we get into contingent resources, which are currently discovered but sub-commercial, as opposed to reserves, which are commercial reserves. And then we have undiscovered, and these are prospective resources. Now they get given a number of different names. We're going to look at just reserves today. Going to keep it simple, high level, to really get a sense of what's happening in the UK in the near to mid-term. But we're not going to look at contingent resources. So we have looked at those in the past and we have different numbers. 2/3 of the contingent resources are actually in unlicensed acreage. Now that's the category for the marginal fields, and you'll see that in an upcoming slide. Prospective resources at the rate of drilling of 10 exploration and appraisal wells, plus or minus, it ain't going to happen. So we're not really worried too much about those. That's the sort of blue sky pipe dream, but something's got to change before any of that's really going to get unlocked. And we do cover it anyway in other videos. NSTA say that they use the stewardship surveys data source. They've got 278 producing fields, 6 projects, and 31 other projects where field development plans are under discussion. Certainly a great start. And you can see the NST classification doesn't quite follow what SP recommend. Producing and under development fields, these are the reserves. So that's what comes out of the survey. Now, PARs have been discussed in the past, and there is a reference to it down here. PAR stands for Potential Additional Resources. Now, it used to be something that was reported, but interestingly, it actually is part of the report that they published. So it's not defined, but it is still, the numbers are given, which doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So some of the figures, contingent resources. So these are uncommercial finds that have been made, but they haven't been moved forward to sanction and to field development. And well, part of the reason is 2/3 of them are actually lying out there in open acreage. Get busy licensing, guys. This an interesting plot. You can see the dark band here, cumulative production, this of oil. You can see here the proven and probable reserves. Now, this is the 1p and 2p together. And you can see kind of declining, and then something's happening around about here, and they seem to decline quite quickly. As opposed to possible resources, which have actually just collapsed. Really not seen as being a significant number of possible resources. And we'll come back to why that is significant. The gas basin, or the gas, it's not just in the southern North Sea, it's everywhere across the UKCS. And you can see a similar picture. A lot of the gas has been produced. The 2p, or the proven and probable resources, have really dropped off. 3p reserves completely collapsed. Now on this graph here, clearly see that there's the production that's basically taking away from the reserve space. And you can see that the 2p reserves, that's the proven and probable, have consistently been coming down here from 2013 down to 2022. Reserves are not being replaced. They've halved in a decade. It is a collapse. Now these are busy slides. So we're looking at reserves here. So these are producing fields, or fields about to go on production. And you can see that between 2017 all the way to 2022, there's been a significant, a steep decline in the number of reserves. Now resources in producing fields, so these were contingent resources, but a steady decline in those as well. There's a lack of investment in existing fields, and the business environment simply not right. Resources in proposed new developments, well, you know, it's a chunky number. Hasn't really changed much in the last 5 years. But resources in marginal discoveries for oil, quite a few, haven't really changed very much. The picture for gas is slightly different in that we see the same reserves in producing fields are declining very, very steeply. There is little in new developments coming forward, so very little new gas is going to come. Resources in producing fields, it's kind of declining a bit, but staying about the same, but not very much is happening. And here's all the resources in marginal discoveries. It's clear across the southern North Sea, the northern North Sea, and the western Shetland. There is a lot of contingent resources in marginal discoveries, and this is what needs to be unlocked. So when you open the NSTA report that you can download from the website, it looks something like this. And what we, of course, have to do is we take it across, we put it into a far more usable format, as you can see here. We'll go on and see some of the derived products from that. Let's have a look at the oil case. So we're going to study oil for a little while. Now, we've got 3 graphs here, and this is based on the information that you get from the NSTA data. There's the proved oil reserves, the proved plus probable oil reserves, and the proved plus probable plus possible oil reserves. In each of these 3 graphs on the top here, we're using exactly the same y-axis scale, and likewise for all of these graphs, and indeed we've put a gradient on here which actually shows the sort of decline in reserves through time. That's the same gradient that you see on this plot here, and indeed on this plot here. Now what it shows is reserves are just steadily going down. If we jump to the proven plus probable plus possible, you can see that they've really significantly reduced over time, really kind of fallen off a cliff. If you look at these charts here, we're only going back to 2010, so from 2010 to 2022, and we do actually alter the scale on the y-axis here. Again, you can see that there has been a major decline. And it really is the decline in the producing fields that we're most interested in. On this chart on the bottom here, we've put a sort of a line through. You can see a generalized trend of it declining through time. In 2016, October, OGA was incorporated, and for a couple of years afterwards, there were some gains. Now, was this down to youthful enthusiasm from the new authority, or more likely it was $100 a barrel oil prices in those times? In the last 3 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, there has been an increase in the rate of decline. Now, that's before we get hit with the windfall tax. Now, the 25% energy profits levy, as it was known, introduced in May 2022, was increased to 35% in January of 2023. Now, none of the impact of this has come through, but we do know that it's put off a lot of companies from investing on the UKCS, and it is going to drive that decline rate even faster. So though Rosebank has recently been approved or consented to, it's not going to come on production for several years, and it's not going to halt this decline. Now, what you can see, and here's an extract from the data, we've highlighted 2012 and 2022, so that's 10 years. The 1P reserves are almost half in a 10-year period. In terms of the 3P, a third of what they were 10 years ago. We believe that that's down to premature COP. Some of these platforms are getting abandoned early. They're not making much money. When the oil price has been down, they tend to get abandoned, and when the oil price comes back up, it's too late. If you're under-investing in these late life fields, they soon become non-commercial. Loss of infrastructure. There's a possible reserves collapse. Certainly to us, the 3P says that none of these opportunities that have been recognized, and they can come from a variety of things. They could be improved recovery factor, they could be secondary and tertiary recovery schemes, they could be drilling additional peripheral fault panels, whatever it might be. There certainly looks like there's been a great unwillingness to invest, and it's been going on for quite some time. It's either that or it's a failure to deliver. None of these declines are being affected yet by windfall tax. That is to come. We'll see the impact of that probably in 2024, 2025, 2026. It's going to be in place till 2028. It's going to be very significant. So that's the oil picture. How does the gas picture look? Gas is somewhat similar, but there are some differences. So you can see here's the proved gas reserves, the proved plus probable, and the proved probable and possible. Again, we're using the same axes, we're using the same gradient. You can see it's a bigger decline in the 2P reserves. It's a catastrophic collapse in terms of the proven, probable and possible. Here's the gas production. You can see it peaked back in 2000, and it was in free fall here back to around about 2012. Since then, it's kind of stabilized, and this graph below runs from 2010 up to 2022. It does seem to be anomalously low in the production in 2021, but it's generally gas production has been steady. Now, that's despite the fact that we've had imports from Norway, from the interconnector, and from LNG tankers coming to our shores, and that does have an effect on UK production, because if there's cheaper gas to buy from elsewhere, that's what is going to be purchased, and some of the fields are then backed out or shut in. Now, Thedlethorpe, a major terminal in the southern North Sea, that closed in 2018. Well, we've got the exact date and time there, to be very precise. And Cygnus, which was a major new development in the southern North Sea, it came on stream back in 2018. Despite all of these closures and new developments, a relatively steady position. But if we look again at the last 10 years, you can see that gas reserves, well, it's been a slow decline. The decline in the 3P reserves, you can see that's gone from sort of around about 800 down to around about, well, just north of 200. So it's been fairly catastrophic. If we look down here, you can see that compared to 10 years ago, the number of proved reserves is about half. And in terms of the proved plus probable plus possible, it's a third of what it was. A lot of the reasons we believe are similar to that for oil. However, there has been a significant change in gas price through time, and we anticipate with these high gas prices we've had since the Ukraine invasion, that should help buoy up the reserves. But despite that, been challenges on infrastructure closures and a general unwillingness to invest. It is not the right business environment to invest money on the UKCS. We haven't yet seen the impact of the windfall tax. That is to come. What is MER? It's maximising economic reserves. And what you can see is in the last 10 years, reserves have free fallen. We're in a really poor state. Now, one of the comments in the document that NSTA put out was, official government forecasts suggest that oil and gas will remain an important and critical part of our energy mix as we transition to net zero. Well, if they aren't there, they won't be a critical part of our energy mix. Unless something changes, the decline is going to be very, very significant, and we're going to be importing an awful lot of oil and gas from overseas to make up the shortfall in our energy mix. Watch this space. Leave a comment below. Come back to our channel soon. Have a great day. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Please hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Hope to see you back on our channel before too long. Bye for now.